Welcome, everybody, to This Week in Cannabis Live. Today is Friday. What is it, May 29th?
29th.
That sounds right. It's been a hell of a week. I'm Jay Rosenthal. That's Jeremy Burke, my co-founder and our editor-in-chief here at Cultivated. Mark Hauser is here from Cannabis Musings, and Ben Larson from High Spirits. Hey, y'all.
Hello.
It's been a week, like a real week.
For you especially. Yeah,
I just got back. I had a whirlwind 24 hours, but all in one day. No overnights in Chicago for the Midwest Cannabis Forum. We'll talk about that in a bit. Let's go to New York first, Jeremy, because that's where you are.
Sure.
This has been a story that's been talked about over the past week or two on our platform and other places. What is this $10 million for? What was it? What was the need? And it sounds like it passed.
Yeah, so the budget's passed. We got a nice little scoop on it. A couple lawmakers had actually heard the industry's concerns about the conversion to metric, the track and trace system in the state. As part of the contract, a little bit of background, there was these 10-cent per retail ID tags, which caused all the operators to take on a lot of extra expense, and that rippled through the supply chain. We reported about it with our writer Chris in January. That story made some waves, and we think some lawmakers heard us. So we spoke to Assemblymember Landon Dais 2 weeks ago now, who said he was working on getting track and trace funding to help these operators comply into the state budget, and it made it into the budget. And so, we took a look at the budget on, what was that, Wednesday night, and we kind of backed out the math. It looks like there is about a $10 million jump in the contractual services line for the OCM, Office of Cannabis Management's Cannabis Management Program, which is how it's written into the budget. So, did a lot of control F and finding the numbers, but that has passed. The one thing I will say about it is, the assembly member wants it to be continuous funding. It will have to be reappropriated next year. And so, there may be some handshake agreements among lawmakers and with the governor's office that it will be in there, but it is not by law continuous. And so, it's not a done deal, but it goes a long way into helping these operators actually comply with track and trace. And as all of our viewers know, as all of you know on the panel, track and trace is crucial to ensuring the supply chain is safe. And so, look, I think this is a win for New York, and I think it's nice to see lawmakers actually do something to help the industry and get it done relatively efficiently rather than the other way around.
I agree with that, but Mark and Ben, I just want to get the timing straight, because New York has been a market for like 3 years, and this is just coming into effect this year, 5 years, whatever it is. Like
past 5 years ago, yeah.
This sounds like the horse was put before, well, the cart was put before the horse by a number of years, and it's taken a very long time to catch up, which has caused lots of, I'll call it chaos in the system in New York, which cannot be a surprise, but like, this just seems like, this is great. Love everything Jeremy said, but also the timing seems like it could have been 5 years ago. No?
Yeah, my response was gonna be yes, and many ands. And so it's like, first off, like every time I hear the word like ID tags and stuff, I really want to strangle someone, and I think someone at Metric is going to look back on those days as the founder of like Cubicles looks back on things and just like totally regret their contributions to life.
Oh my God.
And then
Ben said it, not me, just for anyone watching.
In addition to that, like over 10 years ago now, when I was in the tech industry, we used to have this saying, it's like, if you have to have instructions, it's probably bad design. So if you have to assign $10 million to help people follow a program, it's probably really bad design. And like the fact that we're still here is probably why people like John Lynch at Kush Tracks is trying to eliminate metric. So that's my counterpoint to the positive news that's here.
I'm sure you will hear from someone today on this.
Someone's going to call you. Yeah.
Mark, similar sentiment to Ben.
Oh, I have nothing to add beyond that. I totally agree. I mean, it probably, if they had sort of started, everybody had started building their operations with this, sort of from the ground up, it probably would have been a lot easier to implement. But tacking it on, I mean, it's a lot harder to put that large a fix into the system that already is working.
Yeah, I'll say this. I mean, look, like I definitely totally hear Ben points and personally agree, but I would say, if a faucet's leaking, it's better to put the duct tape on it than not, and
True.
that's that is what's happening, right? And so, but I do yes, yes,
Yeah.
and I totally hear you and agree with what they're saying. I mean, these, philosophically, New York's program is needlessly complex in so many ways, just with the way it's regulated, all the compliance costs, the bureaucracy around it, and just the general difficulty of politics, both between the city and Albany, makes rational changes very difficult. And so, look, like I'm happy the operators are going to get some help. At the same time, if I'm Abigail Spanberger in Virginia, I'm looking at this and saying, like we can do maybe a little bit better. Well, that's a conversation for another day.
It's a conversation we had last week as well, but also hopefully for another day in Virginia. I want to move on because there was lots of conversation this week about publicly traded companies, specifically about Curaleaf. Mark, I want to go to you. They had a reverse split 3-1. Those are the things I know. I know they're doing it and why. I know what they say why they're doing it, but give us your take about Curaleaf's reverse split. Do I have the terminology right? 3-1?
You do. Yeah. You do. And, it's their press release made it abundant. They basically came out and said, we're doing this in anticipation of if it is possible to uplist our stock from the Canadian securities exchanges to US-based securities exchanges, which was a surprising statement to make in a press release. Because that isn't happening today. It's, if they are given access to a U.S. exchange, it's not going to happen for a while, presumably. And so, to come out in a press release with this was as a former securities lawyer, surprising. I'm not. It's a bold statement. It's sort of like this is probably going to come off a little harsh, but it's sort of like saying I'm going to get a haircut in case a supermodel hits on me on the street. It's like it could happen, but there's also other reasons
Jay.
For doing it. And look, I mean, it's on a certain level though, it's a savvy move. I've been critical in my musings about the way press releases have always been done by this industry. This is not a new thing. We have a tendency to issue press releases on a non-binding letter of intent, or even an intent to sign a non-binding letter of intent. I mean, that you don't do that. And so it's, but look, I mean, the market, kind of didn't read it that way though, and it traded down. I think they saw this, as in anticipation of maybe raising more money. It was a little surprising though, because it was a split doesn't change the economics of anything. It's just reducing the number of shares or increasing the number of shares in order to basically you're changing the numerator and changing the denominator, but it's all the same. And so, but look, everybody's excited about the prospect of uplisting, with Schedule 3. It's a lot more complicated than that. At least the Nasdaq is, from what I understand, warming up to the idea of potentially listing a medical-only entity. It's still very much unclear whether they'd be willing. It's even less clear whether they'd be willing to list at this point a dual, medical and adult use. They would definitely need a nice fat legal opinion from a major law firm to get comfortable with that. But even then, also, I mean, the prospect of uplisting, the traders love it because it'll mean more liquidity, but you still would need to then convince institutional investors to invest in the company in an offering, because institutional investors are, when a stock is uplisted to another exchange, it just means those are all secondary trades. That's up money into the company. You then have to convince investors to then invest into the company to then that they can then sell on their shares on those exchanges. And so there's still going to be another step to convince investors that these businesses, these medical only businesses, are investable. And this has not been a terribly investable industry for a number of years. Part of that is because of the exogenous factors of 280E and the illegality and all that. But it's not all of it. A lot of the problems are internal as well. So anyway, that's my.
And it makes Twitter more interesting when things like this happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's for sure.
I mean, I think part of the read, just going off what Mark said, like part of the read is a lot of the MSOs are specifically sending these press releases to retail investors, right? Like they're trying to gin up excitement, and that's why the I don't want to say rephrase what I'm saying. That's why it's generally a little bit different than what you'd see in a much more staid, less emerging industry, right? Like they're trying to gin up excitement, and for better or worse, like they should do that. They don't have access to institutional capital, but it does lead to situations like this, which are bizarre. And like, if uplisting was really around the corner, you wouldn't expect Curaleaf stock to fall on the press release, right? And so I think that's just an interesting dynamic to watch personally. Yeah.
And I don't have any insider or non-public or any sort of real information here, but I would expect that all of the major MSOs are trying to, with large medical state presences like Florida and Pennsylvania and are working to figure out how they can get this done. They've been doing it for a long time, and there's been a few companies that have restructured themselves, like TerraSend did, to get on the Toronto Stock Exchange in the hopes of attracting more capital, but that didn't necessarily pan out the way it was hoped. But yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if we see some of these companies figure out how to sort of spin out the medical only and list the medical only operations.
Yeah, in hopes of yes.
And then
Yeah.
I want to scoot over to a late breaking story, at least on Marijuana Moment, which is this, that there are GOP lawmakers file amendments to prevent federal recriminalization of hemp THC products this year. There's 3 amendments or bills being discussed that would either push off the ban, do away with the ban altogether, and the third one is to defund any enforcement from the DOJ, if I have read this story very quickly, but also accurately. I don't know. I don't. It's very difficult to predict what's going to happen in DC, obviously, but there seems to be, and these are all Republicans doing this. I don't know. Do you want to prognosticate of any of these things happening? Ben, you?
Yeah.
Any of these? Well, I don't know. I didn't read the article. I don't know specifically what these are. 3 is a lot. There are not many that are going to have a snowball's chance in hell at getting through. And if anyone tuned into Haifa's weekly call this week, they had Senator Ted Cruz on there, and he was not super bullish on anything. He said Mitch McConnell is still like an impediment. The question is, like, the later this gets on into the year and maybe even next year, which I know is problematic for a lot of people, it's like Mitch McConnell's relevance, wanes. And so then it becomes really important about who is bringing these bills to the table. And so if we're talking about bills brought by like Wyden or Rand Paul, like people not historically super popular at getting bills, especially bipartisan bills through Congress. But there is some momentum around folks like Andy Barr. And I don't think his bill has been officially released, so I don't know if that's who they're talking about in the article. But, it does seem like he is engaging, his stakeholders in Kentucky, be it alcohol, hemp, all across Congress, Democrat, Republican, the White House. And so something like that where, someone's doing the legwork to bring something that's actually passable, that speaks to all these stakeholders and reaches across the aisle, then maybe it has a chance, but it's not going to be easy. And it's not going to be done quick. And so the question is, like, how does appropriations work into all this? How does the midterms work into all this? And then, any continuing resolutions and all that, which a November deadline still stands in those cases, and that becomes problematic for a lot of operators.
Yep. And just to reiterate, it's May 29th. The election is the first week in November, and a lot of time in the summer is sort of taken off from DC, certainly during an election year for Congress. And it's, not a ton has happened in Congress, period.
But I will say that's like, there's a lot of things happening. There's a lot of interest. There's a lot of eyes on this. And if for anything, that might preserve some goodwill to be like, all right, well, let's try to figure something out, because the president has, made these executive orders around the CMS program and therapeutic hemp, and there has to be changes to at least allow for those programs to work.
Right. And I mean, it would seem to me that like a delay or a bill to non-enforce seems to be maybe the easiest way to go, but that also raises other questions about what happens down the road. It was actually part of the conversation yesterday. Mark, what say you?
Yeah, I think, to me, the bill to not enforce would probably be the worst case scenario for the industry, because you would then, you probably, a lot of what's been built has been built in the industry, in the hemp industry, has been built on the participation of the alcohol distributors and retailers, and the ability to ship DTC across the country. And if hemp reverts back to Schedule 1, but is not enforceable, I still think there's a big if whether those industries will continue to play ball with hemp. Right. And so then you're going to be, so if the whole drinks category goes away, or really sort of dies, shrinks down significantly because they don't have the distribution either through the mails or common carriers or through alcohol. What you're left with is the gas station weed, so-called gas station weed, that that the Congress is really worried about. So it's sort of, to me, that's actually like it would be more counterproductive. So yeah, it would be counterproductive.
That suggests to me that's probably the one that's most likely. Jeremy.
Just a point to make. I haven't read through the bills yet. There was reporting earlier this week that Ted Cruz told a hemp industry trade group, that Mitch McConnell was the problem, right? And so I think there is some, he like his politics or not, he's a smart guy, and I think there's definitely some signaling there that he's giving, knowing that these comments will be reported. And so, look, I think there might be a little bit of a sea change once McConnell is out of office. Plus the fact that he is getting replaced by may get replaced by Andy Barr, who has been sort of a hemp industry champion. The calculus will change very quickly, but maybe not in time for November. So it'll be interesting to watch.
I like when Republicans snipe at each other. That's like one of my favorite.
Well, Ted Cruz snipes at everyone, so he is interesting to talk to. Interesting to listen to. But I would not necessarily. I would not necessarily want to talk to him. I was going to say.
God. Can you think of a guy you'd less want to have a hemp-derived THC beverage with?
He's from Alberta, so we should ask him about separatism.
Yeah. Speaking of which, it actually made its way into the NHL.
I saw that. Yeah.
Well, now finals. Just a terrible, terrible guy.
Jay, I think you gave me an idea for a new podcast. It's like,
what is it? Oh, have a drink with Ted Cruz.
Well, just have conversations while drinking hemp beverages with people that you really would not think to have conversations with.
I think Heineken I think maybe Heineken had an ad campaign like that, where like a YouTube show where they sat down people with diametrically opposed views and then they have a conversation. It was more staged than anything, but I still wouldn't want to sit down with Ted Cruz and have that conversation, no matter how high I was. There's no scenario where that would be a fun thing. Speaking of being high in conversation, yesterday we had the Midwest Cannabis Forum. It was put on by us, Cultivated, and Brad Spirison from Grown In. And I want to show you a picture because the event space was pretty unique. And this will give you sort of a sense. It's like it was an event space within a antique store called Salvage One. This is like, so everybody, all the seats, all the chairs, everything there is like also for sale, but also sort of really beautiful antiques. So also the lighting was quite great because yesterday was a beautiful day in Chicago, and there was these stained glass things along the windows. But it was a really good day of conversation. We intentionally like jam-packed it from, I think it was from 1 to 6. We talked about the Illinois market. There's a bill, an omnibus bill being considered between now and the 31st. Some tweaks to the Illinois program around security, around purchase limits, around a whole bunch of other things that hopefully will be considered on behalf of the industry. A lot of conversation around hemp. We had people from Kentucky there, but also other markets. Very interested to see what's happening, obviously in DC, but also how it impacts direct-to-consumer businesses that are already in place and hemp-derived. We had finance, banking, lots of conversations that we're always having, how rescheduling impacts that, if it does. So thank you to everybody that showed up in Chicago. We probably had throughout the day more than 200 people there, which was great. The team from Grown In was amazing. We had delicious Chicago-specific food at a great location. We look forward to getting back there for the next Midwest Cannabis Forum, date TBD. Makes me remind me of Michael Scott. TBD determined, I think is what he said on the show. But it was ASAP as possible. But it was a great day. So I wanted to just give a shout out to the folks there, including some of our partners at Vaxxed and Fund Canna and Azuka and who else was there? Shield Compliance and a bunch of our other good friends. So thank you all for being there. We really enjoyed it and look forward to getting back. It's now time of the show where we talk. I have a video to set this one up. Sorry, I always forget. Winners and losers. Is everybody ready? Mark, you're up first. You seem to have. Do you have a loser or do you have a winner this week?
I do have a loser, but also
Okay.
it creates a winner. The loser is smart approaches to marijuana and its cohorts in the CBD case. They, as many know, they filed a federal lawsuit to block implementation of the of making CBD available under Medicaid or Medicare. All of the plaintiffs lost their lawsuit on standing grounds, which is, the funniest way to lose because it doesn't even get to the merits of the case. It's sort of like you got stuck at the starting line. And I read the opinion, and it was actually a very well thought out opinion. That the basis of it is basically is that there's no actual actual harm or real sort of immediate harm to these organizations or the handful of sort of individual plaintiffs. And it was the right result. They'll appeal, but it probably. It was a well-written opinion to sort of create the basis for it. So I think we all kind of win for this. So
fair enough. Ben, you're up next. Winners, losers. What do you got?
I mean, Kevin Sabet getting a loss is just worth the double down on this because anyone that's been doing this for a decade plus, like, it's just like, Kevin, you don't have to keep doing this. Like, I know this has been your career for like 20 years, but just give it up. You take the loss. And again, to Mark's point, we're all winners. Like, I think I get to be on a panel with Mr. Sabet in about 2 weeks
Really?
at the Canada
Where?
conference in Oklahoma City. So if you're going to the Canada external stakeholder event, come see me.
that's going to
be on a panel
fascinating.
with a big fat loser.
Do they give you finals tickets while you're in Oklahoma City? Yeah.
Maybe
that would be
one
awesome.
more day.
Popcorn? Just like everybody start eating popcorn just to watch the what's going to happen.
Exactly.
It's be so good.
That's something. Jeremy, that's Jeremy's best friend on Twitter.
I mean, I'm actually kind of impressed that he is willing to, get in front of that crowd.
I mean, sure. He also agreed
I'm not
before he
impressed.
lost.
He wants attention. He's an attention.
Yeah.
He's a perfect lobbyist for the Trump era in the sense that all press is good press. He wants attention. He's so thin on the material. It's so easy to poke holes. It's just written perfectly for the 2020s. I am not a fan of him or his organization, to say the least.
You don't say, Jerry. You're up next.
No.
Winners, losers?
Winners, I'm going to be very New York themed. I think Assemblymember Landon Dais. I think, it was very interesting to talk to him about 10 days ago. I think more former cannabis operators, attorneys should get into politics, right? Because there are clear fixes and clear wins. And it was really refreshing to hear him come from a perspective both rooted in social equity with his personal run-ins with the law as a teenager, but also as an operator, as a business person, trying to help make it easier to actually grow the industry. So I thought that was a refreshing perspective, and it's a big win for him to get this in the state budget. Second winner, as you all know, I'm on the Knicks bandwagon. They are cooking. OG Anunoby, former Raptor, has been playing out of his mind, and so I'm excited to see who comes out of the West on Saturday. But I'm all in for the Knicks. And if anyone wants to pay $100,000 for me to go to the game, my wallet is open. So
you and Timothy Chalamet can sit together.
Yeah, we look just alike too, so everyone will mistake us. Yeah.
Well, if it's OKC, are you torn a little bit between people with Canadian roots?
No. The more OKC loses, the more Shai Gilgeous-Alexander says, I want to go play for the Raptors. So I hope they lose.
I don't know if that's going to happen, but I do. He is great to watch. My winner, because I was just in Chicago, two winners. One, just people in Chicago, love Chicago, great to be there for the day. But also Illinois operators that have stuck it out. Holy man. Kudos to you. You are winners. They've had headwinds all along, and many of them have stuck it out. And wishing them luck over the next couple of days of legislative session to get the tweaks and fixes they need. Someone did have a quote. I have to look up the exact quote. She said, "My security guy makes 2x what I do," because they have to have third-party security there. So shout out. Hopefully that gets resolved in Chicago. And my winner, Jeremy, this one's for you. I think you might have said this last week, but Mitch Marner, Las Vegas.
Yeah.
He is on his way to the Stanley Cup Finals after leaving Toronto, and he's on a tear, and he's smiling, and he's going to the Stanley Cup Finals. Several things he didn't do in Toronto. So
yeah. He might be the playoff MVP if the Golden Knights pull this off. I mean, they won 40 games this season, and they're in the finals. So
well, I went to their game during MJ Biz. That seems like a million years ago. It was in December.
Yeah.
But no, and he was not as present on the ice as he is certainly now. So for those non-hockey fans, I'm sorry we're talking about hockey, but yeah, tune in because it has always been good, but now the finals will start next week. Carolina is up 3-1. Montreal, unfortunately. So hopefully Montreal will come back and pull it out, even though you're not supposed to say that in Toronto. You're supposed to root against Montreal. But I pulled for Canadians, so and the Canadiens in this case. So that's enough hockey, probably enough basketball, even enough hemp conversation, and probably not a conversation about publicly traded cannabis companies as well. Mark, Ben, Jeremy, thanks for being here on this Friday. We will see everybody next week, which we're into June at that point. Thanks, everybody. Have a good week.
Bye-bye.
Bye, y'all.